an epic tale about Victorian women and other minorities living on the fringes of society who mysteriously are granted abilities almost overnight, must now grapple with their evolving circumstances, their growing concern over those with powers, and even those who want to eradicate their kind in Victorian London. You're listening to Utter Animist's podcast. This is your host, Lulu, and today we're taking a look at the Nevers in this episode of Midnight Binge. The touched, as they're called, are women and minorities with remarkable abilities. They resort to living, or some of them resort to living at St. Romuald's Orphanage, which is ran by a touched called Amalia True. Now, Lavinia Bidlow is the wealthy benefactor who sponsors the orphanage, but she has unknown ulterior motives when it comes to keeping an eye, a very, very close eye, on the touched. Turns are what the word powers are, or abilities is substitute for. So, for example, Amalia True's turn is that she can see bits of the future. Turns vary widely from person to person, from a song that only the touched can hear to altering things on a molecular level, being a polyglot, controlling and manipulating electricity, and so much more. The surgency of the touch turns London's gender-specific and even racial prejudice on its head. As mentioned, it looks like the minority, actually, let me rephrase that. It looks like the majority of the touched are women and those who aren't white. So basically, everyone who would be found on the fringes of Victorian London society. So all women, anybody who isn't classified normal in the Victorian London's age. This flips the hierarchy on its head, more specifically the patriarchy, because it's believed that those who have been gifted these powers shouldn't have it simply because they're women or from a different race. It splits people into multiple factions, even radicals, including Lavinia Bidlow and the ex-military politician Lord Gilbert Masson. We do find out in the later episodes how the touch got their turns. The Galanthi, a faction of an alien race, but their goal was to stop a catastrophic event years in the future. They flew their ship over London, which sort of like leaked a genetic altering substance that gave people their turns. This specific ship, the one that flew over London, was the very last of its kind and was ran by a woman named Zephyr, whose soul is now in Amalia. Now, HBO announced the series in July of 2018. Joss Whedon became the creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner, and the bidding war nearly saw the Nevers wind up on Netflix. Writers and producers included Bernie Caulfield, Jane Epstein, Doug Petrie, Laurie Penny, Melissa Iqbal, Madhuri Shakar, Kevin Lau, Daniel S. Kaminsky, and Hannah Sekendry. I hope I did not say any of those wrong. November, though, saw Whedon step down as showrunner, director, and executive producer, and he cited unprecedented challenges and exhaustion for his reasons for stepping back However, he was deeply proud of the work that they did on the Nevers. He was replaced by Philippa Goslett. So the Nevers ran into a few problems, like a lot of shows that were filmed in 2020 because of COVID-19 and so they did filming in 2019, 2020, and early 2021. Or I think they started filming actually in 2020. So not 2019, but 2020. Prime example of these changes because of COVID restrictions was Melody's hanging scene. So a lot of that was done. It was originally meant to be shot on location. However, they couldn't do that because of the sheer number of people that were in attendance of that particular scene. And so it showed the creativity and determination to have this scene done. So it was rebuilt totally on a sound stage, and cast and crew were drastically cut down and green screen in later to give the impression of more people being there. So that was one of the big scenes that saw this sort of restriction was Melody's hanging scene. So a lot of people were green screened in, or the sheer number of people was just cut down completely in order to follow COVID restrictions. Now, I've enjoyed what The Nevers has to offer so far. It was showing great potential with its last few episodes before the mid-season finale. So currently, it seems like season 1 is being split into 2 parts. So this mid-season finale ended on episode 6, which I think was called True. From what I've gathered, obviously there's only 6 episodes, but from what I've gathered from a few sites that are following the Nevers, it looks like we won't get the rest of season 1 in 2021. It seems like they haven't wrapped up production as of May of 2021. Is that concerning? Not really, and I think it has a lot to do with the COVID situation that is currently going on, which I won't dive much into just because I'm pretty sure y'all are tired of that from the news and things of that nature. But unfortunately, it is a very real concern, a very real problem with a lot of things, such as filming, just because there's a lot of cast and crew members. One sort of shot, one sort of scene can have over 100 crew members and maybe dozens of cast members, and that's dozens of people that are unmasked and that sort of thing. So they have to really, really think of how to proceed with certain scenes for the safety of all, which I totally get. So, but as of right now, it doesn't seem like production has even picked up or filming hasn't ceased quite yet. But it's a good show so far. So I rate The Nevers a 3.9 out of 5. It isn't cohesive yet. A lot of backstory is still being explained. So for True and Zephyr and that type of deal, it's still kind of choppy in regards to storytelling. I'm not saying that storytelling is blah. I'm just saying that it is kind of choppy. It does take a minute to pick it up where they want to go with this. However, like I said, it has a lot of potential of being a good show. Joss Whedon started this project, and Philippa Goslett obviously has now picked it up. And I want to know where Philippa is going to take this show, since Josh has stepped down from directing and the main part of what he was doing. So I have hopes for a second season, and I have hopes for the rest of season 1. What are your thoughts on The Nevers? Do you like it, or do you have some issues with the show? Do you want a second season, or are you just going to wait until the first season finishes before you make up your mind? I think that's where we'll end it. I know this was particularly short, but there wasn't much to say, and I'm trying to pick up where I left off because I am procrastinating on all my episodes, and I am very, very sorry. I'm going to try and pre-record everything. That way I am back to being a week ahead on these recordings, and you guys aren't waiting for a few days to pick up on an episode. But don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Consider supporting this podcast at Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon or right here on Anchor. And I will catch you guys later. Bye!